My beloved child, stop scrolling for just a moment, because what you are about to hear did not reach you by accident. Something hidden has been unfolding behind the silence, behind the distance, behind the moments when you wondered whether your sincerity was ever truly seen. Heaven has witnessed every detail, and now a truth is rising to the surface. Your soulmate secretly tested your honesty, expecting to discover a reason to protect their heart from you. But when they finally learned the truth, they did not feel relief. They broke down in tears. Do not turn away yet. The deepest part has not been revealed. There was a moment recently when your soulmate sat alone, surrounded by quiet, replaying your words in their mind. They remembered the promises you made, the kindness you offered, and the way you remained gentle even when you had every reason to become distant. Yet fear whispered to them that perhaps it was all too good to be true. Their past had trained them to question sincere love. Their old wounds had taught them that beautiful words often disappeared when circumstances became difficult. And because their feelings for you had become deeper than they wanted to admit, they decided to search for certainty without telling you. They were not trying to destroy you. They were trying to protect themselves. But heaven saw the hidden test. Your soulmate watched how you behaved when you believed no one important was watching. They listened carefully to the way you spoke when their name was not directly mentioned. They noticed whether your actions remained consistent when there was nothing for you to gain. They may have placed a small situation before you, allowed a certain conversation to reach you, or stepped back just enough to see whether your loyalty would change in their absence. They expected to find a contradiction. They prepared themselves to discover that your heart was not as honest as it appeared. But something unexpected happened. You remained true. You did not know you were being observed. You did not know that one quiet decision would reach your soulmate's heart with the force of a revelation. You did not know that your restraint, your silence, or your refusal to betray something sacred would become the answer to a question they had carried for a very long time. But when the truth reached them, their defenses began to collapse. Stay here, because their tears were not only about your honesty. They cried because they suddenly realized how unfairly fear had judged you. They cried because they remembered every moment when you had tried to reassure them, and they saw how difficult they had made it for themselves to believe you. They cried because your honesty exposed something inside them that they had been avoiding. You were not the danger their past had taught them to expect. You were the person who had been standing before them with a sincere heart while they were still fighting shadows from an old story. That realization shook them. My child, your soulmate has been carrying more fear than they have shown. On the outside, they may appear composed, practical, distant, or even unaffected. But beneath that surface is someone who has been terrified of giving their heart to the wrong person again. They have learned to study every detail. They have learned to question affection. They have learned to search for hidden motives, because once before, trust cost them more than they were prepared to lose. Then you entered their life. You awakened something they thought they had buried. Your presence did not simply make them feel loved. It made them feel vulnerable. That is why they watched so closely. That is why they pulled back when their heart wanted to move closer. That is why they sometimes seemed warm one moment and guarded the next. The deeper their feelings became, the more frightened they were that your sincerity might be temporary. But the hidden test changed something. When they discovered that you had spoken honestly, even when dishonesty would have been easier, they felt a wave of emotion they could no longer control. Their eyes filled with tears before they could stop them. They tried to breathe through it. They tried to tell themselves that it was only one moment, one decision, one piece of proof. But their heart knew it was more than that. It was confirmation. It was the first real sign that the love they had secretly hoped for might actually be standing in front of them. Do not skip what comes next, because the reason your honesty affected them so deeply is connected to a private fear they have never fully confessed. They once believed that if anyone saw the real version of them, the uncertain version, the wounded version, the version that sometimes overthinks and pulls away, they would eventually lose interest. Your soulmate feared that they had to be perfect to remain loved. They thought they had to hide their confusion, hide their insecurity, and hide the parts of their story that still carried pain. They worried that if you knew everything, you might look at them differently. So they created distance. They observed you from behind emotional walls. They tested whether your words remained steady when they were not giving you constant reassurance. They wondered if your loyalty depended on receiving attention. They questioned whether your care would disappear the moment another path became easier. But instead of finding betrayal, they found patience. Instead of finding manipulation, they found restraint. Instead of finding someone who only wanted to win, they found someone who genuinely did not want to cause harm. And that is when the tears came. Your soulmate realized that while they had been testing your honesty, heaven had been revealing their own heart to them. They thought they were gathering information about you. But in truth, they were discovering how deeply they already loved you. A person does not search so desperately for certainty unless the answer matters. A person does not fear disappointment unless hope has already entered the heart. Your soulmate's secret test was not proof that they felt nothing. It was proof that they felt so much that losing you had become frightening. Pause here for a moment. There is something even more powerful beneath this revelation. Your soulmate did not only learn that you were honest. They learned that you protected something connected to them. Perhaps you refused to repeat private information. Perhaps you defended them when they were absent. Perhaps you spoke with kindness when others expected resentment. Perhaps you chose not to expose their weakness, even though doing so could have made you appear stronger. Whatever form it took, your choice revealed that your heart was not seeking control. Your heart was seeking truth. That difference changed everything. They had seen people use love as a weapon before. They had watched others offer affection only to gain access, influence, attention, or validation. They knew what it felt like to be valued for what they could provide rather than for who they truly were. So when they tested you, part of them expected the familiar pattern to appear again. But you broke the pattern. Without realizing it, you answered a prayer they had whispered in a moment of loneliness. Long before this test, your soulmate had asked heaven for a sign. They asked to be shown whether your presence was sincere or whether their heart was simply creating hope where none existed. They may not have used perfect words. They may have spoken through tears, silence, or exhaustion. But their soul asked for clarity. And then your honesty became the answer. The moment they understood this, they could no longer hold back their emotions. Their tears carried regret, relief, longing, and fear all at once. They regretted doubting you. They felt relief because they finally saw proof. They felt longing because the truth pulled them emotionally closer to you. And they felt fear because now they had one less excuse to remain hidden. This is where the situation becomes extraordinary. Before the test, your soulmate could blame uncertainty for their distance. They could tell themselves they were being careful. They could pretend they simply needed more information. But now they know. Now they have seen something genuine. Now the question is no longer whether you are honest. The question is whether they will be brave enough to respond to your honesty with honesty of their own. Stay until the end, because heaven is showing you that a confession is forming behind their silence. Your soulmate has begun replaying old conversations with new understanding. Words you spoke weeks or months ago now sound different to them. Moments they once dismissed now feel significant. They are remembering the way you looked at them, the patience in your tone, and the times you gave them space without becoming cruel. They are realizing that your sincerity was not hidden. They simply were not ready to trust what they could already feel. That awareness has humbled them. They are beginning to see that you may have been carrying confusion because of their mixed signals. They know there were times when they pulled you closer, then suddenly became distant. They know there were moments when they seemed ready to open up, then changed the subject or disappeared behind silence. They told themselves they were protecting their heart, but now they are confronting the possibility that they also hurt yours. This thought is heavy for them. They are asking themselves whether you still see them the same way. They wonder whether their hesitation has changed something in you. They fear that while they were searching for proof, you may have grown tired of waiting to be believed. And this is one reason their tears became so intense. They did not only realize that you were honest. They realized they may have discovered it too late. But listen carefully, my child. Heaven is not revealing this to fill your heart with anxiety. This message is reaching you because the story is still moving. Something is shifting in your soulmate's spirit. The test that was meant to confirm their fears has instead challenged every wall they built. They are no longer able to return comfortably to the same emotional distance. Your honesty has disturbed their silence. It has followed them into quiet rooms. It has entered their thoughts when they try to focus on other things. It has made them wonder what might happen if they finally stopped protecting themselves from the very connection they prayed for. They feel pulled toward you, yet they are still wrestling with how to approach you without revealing how deeply this has affected them. They are considering their next move. At first, they thought about pretending nothing happened. They considered keeping the truth to themselves, continuing to observe, and waiting for another sign. But every time they try to delay, their heart reminds them of what they discovered. They cannot erase the image of your honesty. They cannot forget the emotional impact of realizing that you remained sincere without knowing you were being tested. Something huge is waiting beneath this silence. Your soulmate is now facing a decision that could change the direction of this connection. They can continue hiding behind caution, or they can admit that your honesty reached a place in them no one else has reached. They can remain silent, or they can tell you why they pulled away. They can keep pretending their feelings are small, or they can acknowledge that their tears exposed the truth. They love more deeply than they intended. But there is another layer. The person who helped them discover your honesty may know more about their feelings than you realize. Someone close to your soulmate may have witnessed the emotional breakdown or heard their trembling confession afterward. This person may have expected your soulmate to feel satisfied after learning the truth. Instead, they watched them become overwhelmed. They may have heard your soulmate say something like, "I did not think they would really be that honest," or, "I cannot believe I doubted them," or even, "What have I done?" Those words did not come from anger. They came from awakening. Your soulmate began to understand that your honesty had placed responsibility in their hands. Once truth is revealed, pretending becomes more difficult. They know they cannot continue expecting you to prove yourself endlessly while offering no vulnerability in return. They know that love cannot survive forever inside hidden tests and silent assumptions. This realization is preparing them for a conversation. But before that conversation happens, something inside them must break completely. Not their heart, my child, but the final wall around it. The wall built from old betrayal. The wall built from fear of rejection. The wall built from the belief that vulnerability always leads to loss. Your honesty has already created a crack. And light is entering. You may soon notice a change in their energy. They may become unusually attentive. They may ask a question that seems simple but carries deeper meaning. They may bring up a past conversation, apologize indirectly, or find a reason to reconnect. They may not reveal everything at once. They may move carefully because the emotions are stronger than they expected. Do not mistake caution for indifference. Their heart is trying to find the courage to step into the truth. Yet heaven also wants you to remember something important. Your value does not depend on passing anyone's secret test. Your honesty was not created to earn love. It is part of who you are. You remained sincere because your spirit chose integrity, not because you knew a reward was waiting. That is why the revelation became so powerful. Real character is revealed when applause is absent. Real loyalty is revealed when recognition is uncertain. Real love is revealed when a person protects what is sacred, even while feeling unseen. Your soulmate has now witnessed this truth about you, and it has forced them to look inward. They are asking whether they have been equally honest. They are confronting the things they withheld, the feelings they minimized, and the excuses they used to keep you at a safe distance. This inner confrontation is not comfortable. But it is necessary. There is a reason you felt a strange emotional heaviness recently. There may have been a moment when your thoughts suddenly turned toward your soulmate without explanation. You may have felt restless, reflective, or unusually sensitive. In this fictional spiritual story, that moment represents the invisible thread between two hearts when one finally encounters a truth it can no longer deny. Their tears were not weakness. They were release. Every tear carried away a piece of suspicion. Every breath exposed a feeling they had tried to control. Every memory of your honesty made it harder for them to remain emotionally hidden. By the time they calmed down, they were no longer the same person who began the test. They had learned too much. They learned that you were more sincere than they expected. They learned that fear had been speaking louder than reality. They learned that they had been asking heaven for a sign while resisting the signs already surrounding them. Most of all, they learned that the possibility of losing you now frightens them more than the possibility of loving you. That is the revelation they were not prepared for. Do not skip now, because the final truth of this part changes the meaning of everything. Your soulmate did not begin the test alone. Before it happened, they spoke to someone about you. They revealed a concern, asked a careful question, or admitted that they did not know whether your words could be trusted. The person listening may have challenged them. They may have said, "What if you are wrong about them?" or, "What if they are actually telling you the truth?" Your soulmate did not want to answer. So the test was created. But after your honesty was confirmed and the tears came, that same person asked one final question. It was a question your soulmate could not escape. A question that silenced every excuse. A question that exposed the real reason they had been watching you so closely. They asked, "Why does this matter so much to you unless you are already in love?" The room became still. Your soulmate looked away, but their tears returned. For the first time, they did not deny it. They did not laugh it away. They did not change the subject. They did not insist that they were only being careful. Instead, they lowered their voice and admitted something they had never said aloud. They confessed that they had imagined a future with you. They confessed that your name had entered their prayers. They confessed that they had been afraid because this connection felt unlike anything they had experienced before. But that was not the most shocking confession. After a long silence, they revealed that the hidden test was never only about whether you were honest. There was another reason they needed certainty. A decision had already been placed before them, one connected to distance, timing, family, or a major change in their life. They believed they had only a little time left to decide whether to move toward you or close the door completely. Your honesty has now changed that decision. Tonight, they are holding something in their hands, a message, a number, a photograph, or a reminder of you, and they are preparing to do what fear has stopped them from doing for far too long. But just as they were about to reach out, someone entered the situation and revealed one final secret about you. A secret your soulmate never expected to hear. And when they heard it, they whispered your name, stood up with tears still on their face, and made a decision that will change everything.